Hello and welcome, everybody. For those that are new to our program, welcome. Glad you're here. For Cars and Coffee people, glad to see you again. Actually, I can see you this time. And our Speed Academy, we have a number of Speed Academy people here. Welcome to those too. You see, I'm wearing my Speed Academy shirt, and I think a few others are. We'll talk about the Academy later on, but the whole reason that I'm doing this is right now we're basically the experts in 9904 Cobra with IRS. There isn't anybody that has the experience or the knowledge or the stuff, so to speak, to make them work really well. And it's something that we're going to continue to support for a long, long time. Even though, you know, the 550 cars are new, we're still going to be heavy into 9904 Cobras for quite a while. And also people that are converting their Mustangs or Fox cars to IRS. Starting off already with my stupid asthma and hay fever. I'm just dying for the first frost. Yes and no. I mean, I want the first frost to kill all the pollen, but I'm really not looking forward to it. Anyway, so we've got a lot of people that have continually asked about the IRS and the Cobra. And this all started with a few weeks back. Somebody asked me that which was quicker, the CSR OT, which I wrote a builder's notes on back in '03, I think, on a 2003 Cobra that we turned into like a great track car, or Ruby, which was my S197 GT4 RS track car. And they're actually two completely different cars. And I thought that, you know, that comparing to the CSR OT, the supercharged Cobra, wasn't a good comparison because, I mean, they're great cars, but they have some challenges turning them into a track car. They've, you know, first of all, they got a lot of weight in the front and they've got a lot of heat to deal with. So I thought the better comparison was to Kermie, my absolutely beloved 2001 SEMA Mustang that we converted into an IRS Cobra. And I'll talk about that in a little bit. So we keep getting questions, and we sent out a little questionnaire of was people would like to see me do just something on the IRS Cobras, and we got pretty good response. So here we are. We're going to talk about, you know, I'm going to go through and go through how I build the CSR IRS Cobra, which are amazing track cars. Anybody that's ever ridden in Kermie it can just tell you that it's an amazing car. I mean, I could drive that car all day on track. I can put anywhere on the track I want. It's just easy to drive, and you know, anybody that's got, there's some people out there tonight that actually have had some of my IRS Cobra stuff, and they can attest that I make them work really, really well. So I think, and of course, people with Cars and Coffee know that I can't get by without it. Carries little notes and all the highlighted things. And she asked me to ask. Let us know. I think people let us know what kind of cars they have, whether it's Cobras or I wasn't paying attention. So yeah, that's me not paying attention. Anyway, for those that are kind of new, my background is I've been in professional motorsports and building great street cars, track cars, and championship winning race cars for over 40 years. And through that time, I've just accumulated just a wealth of experience and knowledge. And in recent times, you know, I've elected to share that knowledge with you because, you know, to get where I am today, I made a lot of mistakes. I mean, that's how you learn. And through those mistakes, I learn. And if I can save you from making mistakes that can cost you money, then I've done my job. Or give you some information that you didn't know about cars. I mean, that's what I'm kind of here for. So that's kind of like the background. And Carrie said I love Cobras. I really do love Cobras. It's kind of like they're near and dear to my heart. And here's kind of like how I really got going with the SVT Cobras. Is in '99 when the IRS Cobra came out. I mean, I was, you know, pretty well positioned in the Mustang market with live axle cars. We've got a lot of track cars, a lot of race cars. And when the IRS came out in '99 on the Mustang Cobra, the SVT Cobra, You know, the Mustang market, which is like 90, at that point, 99% drag racing, was in a complete tizzy. You know, they just didn't know. I mean, this IRS thing didn't know anything about. It had wheel hop. It did all kinds of bad things when you went to the drag strip. But for me, I was like, oh, this is cool. Because back in the 70s, I was working on a lot of SCCA open wheel cars, Formula Fords, Super Bs, Atlantics, which all had independent in the back. And back then, the Triumphs. I worked on a lot of Triumphs, and they had independent, you know, sports cars with independent rear suspension. So seeing independent rear suspension was nothing new and different to me. I mean, I knew all about them. I've been working with them for years. So that's how we started with you know, working on the IRS Cobras. And as luck would have it, one of the first people to get a 99 IRS Cobra was Brandon Bernstein, who you probably recognize the name. Anyway, he got a Cobra, and he brought it to my shop, and he said, here, make it better. So that's how we kind of started with the Cobras, with Brandon Bernstein's car, and then just one thing led to another. We kept developing. But then the big leap forward was in 2000, when we introduced Kermie at the SEMA show. Kermie actually started life as a V6 Mustang. V6 because Ford came to me and they wanted me to build a SEMA car that featured the V6 because they wanted to kind of stimulate some interest in the V6 Mustang. So we got you know, Kermie. I didn't know what color it was going to be, and they said, you know, it's ready, come pick it up. So I flew up to Detroit and met the people, walked out to the parking lot and handed me the keys. I looked at it and said, oh, it's green. So I wasn't really enthused about the color at that point, but really it turned out for the better because it, you know, it just became an iconic car. We nicknamed it Kermie. What else would you do with a green car? We showed up at SEMA, and we did have the V6. We put a stroker kit in it, and we supercharged it, so it was making some pretty decent power. But the big thing is that's where I introduced my AGS 3.5 suspension. Now, AGS stands for Advanced Geometry Suspension Systems, which actually started back in the 86, 87 Celine R Mustangs that I built and engineered to 4 national championships, back-to-back wins in 24 Hours of Canada, the GT class. But anyway, at the end of 2000 or end of 86, I got together with a guy at Ford, and he worked after hours on we started playing with geometry, and I carried that over into the 87 cars. And so that was like AGS 1.0. And we went through 1.0, led into 2.0, which was an advancement on 1.0, and then 2.0 led into 3.0, which was the SN95 live axle cars. And when we did the IRS, that became AGS 3.5. Because it had the front end of the 3.0, although it was a better front end than the original, and plus the IRS. And that's what the AGS 3.5 stands for, is the IRS Cobras. And we introduced a new K-member, which had great geometry, and we'll get to that in a little bit. And we introduced the IRS package with you know, all tubular control arms, improved geometry. I mean, it was just kind of the complete package. And we went on, you know, took it to a bunch of track events, and it was kind of fun because you know, like Porsche and Corvette guys, first of all, weren't really excited by getting kind of beat by a Mustang, but then when they found out it was a V6 Mustang, that kind of really, you know, I liked it. Anyway, so that's how kind of the whole IRS story for me and the IRS cars kind of evolved. And so what I want to do tonight, I want to go back through and step by step how I build one of these CSR Cobras, and the things I think about, the things I put into it, and why I put into it. And I know that everybody's interested in the IRS. I mean, you know, I got quite a bit of feature on that later on. But see, the IRS is only one component of a bigger package. And, you know, in racing, what I learned over the years, it's not one component, it's the package. You have to have the package. Everything has to fit into place, and you get everything to fit into place, and it works, and you win championships. We did that in '87 with the Celine cars. I mean, we wrapped up 4 national championships in pro racing because we had the package. But anyway, we're going to talk about the IRS is just part of the package, but we want to talk about the complete package. Because if you want to try to build like emulate the CSR Cobra package, I'm going to go through step by step and tell you how to do it. But also, it's good information for any Mustang, because what goes into the CSR goes in every single Mustang that I build, and it all starts with planning, performance planning. And if you're going to start a project, I mean, planning is the most important step. A lot of people, they either like kind of skip over or don't think about, they just kind of rush into it. And planning is really, really important. If you don't want to have to go back and redo things and spend more money fixing something that you didn't do right the first time. And in performance planning, I mean, the number one rule I have is when you plan, start with the end in mind. And by that, I mean, know where you want the car to end up, and then start work backwards from there. Now, whether it takes you 3 months to get to that goal, 6 months, or 3 years, is irrelevant. As long as you know where you want to be in the end, you start from the end and work backwards. And the other thing I tell people to do is always kind of keep your expectations and budget in line, because budget is the killer for a lot of projects. People get started, they don't. They forget about budget, or they under budget themselves, and they just get stalled out. And a lot of people just lose interest, and the project never gets completed. But if you think about budgeting and even doing things in small steps, that's the way to do it. I mean, because in the end, I want you guys to have a really cool driving car, because that's the reason I do this. Is I love driving, and I love track driving. I haven't raced for a lot of years, but I still love track driving, and to me, nothing feels better than when you go into a corner and you just feel the car just dig down. You're around the corner, you feel your butt loading up with the G's, and it just, to me, there's no feeling better than that. I'm not much of a drag racer. Or Carrie said, or street or track. Yeah, or driving through Twisty Canyon Road, just having the car plant, having it turn, just having it just feel really under control. I mean, that's what I'm all about. And that's how I build my car sort of for me first, and then I share with you what I've got. So, start with the end in mind, and always think about budget. And again, if you need to do it in steps, even if it would have people that have taken 3 years to build their cars, but they got it done. And when they had it done, they had a great product. So performance planning is really important. Going through my notes from Carrie. Oh, here's another important point. And I recommend that if you're doing a project car, stick with one philosophy on performance. Now, whether it's myself or somebody else in the industry, find a philosophy and stick with it, because that way you're going to have a better product. I mean, the worst phone calls I get where people call up and say, I've got, having problems making my car handle. I've got this from this manufacturer, that from another manufacturer, this from somebody else. It's kind of like as soon as you start mixing and matching parts, you're starting out on your own R&D program. And, that's all I've been doing for 40 years is R&D programs. And in R&D programs can sometimes you get good results, but more often than not, the results aren't really what you're looking for, because you don't have anybody telling you if all this stuff works together. So pick a philosophy, mine or somebody else, it doesn't matter. And my big thing is be very cautious of what you read on the internet. I've given up reading some of those forums years ago. The amount of misinformation or disinformation was just staggering to me. So that's kind of how we start. And then, creating your build plan. So when I started with the, let's say I started with Kermie, I knew where I wanted to be. And the V6 was only one of the steps to get there, because that's what Ford wanted. So we did the V6, and we embarrassed a lot of people with really fast cars. But I knew I wanted to have like the ultimate Cobra track car. And so I just, same process, working backwards from there. I need a good suspension, I need good shocks, I need good brakes, I need the right wheel and tire package, and a good exhaust system. I knew where I wanted to be, so working backwards from that. And the very first thing I look at with Fox and SN95 Mustangs is the chassis. Oh, I forgot my 5 secrets to building a great track car or a street car or a race car. Build the performance platform first. I mean, that's how I do it, and I strongly recommend that's what you consider doing, is get your performance platform down. Now, so many people, they want to do a project and rush right out and add a whole bunch of horsepower, and all of a sudden discover, well, the car won't hook up, I can't get the turn, can't get the stop. Having way too much horsepower and not having a platform underneath it to support is not only not fun, it can be dangerous. So, before we even think about the engine, we always build the performance platform. And the best way to describe that is, you got to make the chassis work. You make the chassis work, that's where the real speed comes from. Because all my track cars are just, fly past cars with way more horsepower, just simply because they stop, they turn, they get off the corner hard, they get great terminal speed. So it's all about the performance platform. Just think, if you watched a NASCAR race, how many times, if they wanted to make the car faster, do they come into the pits and adjust the carburetor? No, they work on the chassis, tire pressures, track bar. That's how they make the car. And I'm sure you've seen that, some drivers start a race, 500-mile race, and they say the car is junk. And, through the pit stops, the team works on the chassis. And by the end of the race, they're right up front. So, a lot of speed is like in the chassis. So that's why I would say build that performance platform first. And the 5, I keep getting hit on myself. My 5 secrets for performance platforms: chassis, suspension, wheels, tires, brakes. And anybody that's with me for a while recognizes that, because that's a big thing I harp on, is chassis, suspension, wheels, tires, brakes. You get those 5 things down, and you're going to have a platform that if you want to add power, you can. You may not need power because it's going to be so quick in the corners, but if you want to add power, then you've got a platform that will support extra power rather than vice versa. So looking at the five elements: chassis, Fox and SN95 cars are either unibody, and they're pretty much tin cans when you get right down to as far as strength. You take a tin can, twist it, and all crumples up. I can tell you that back when we were working on Fox cars, we would have people come in with a Fox, and actually the floor pan was cracked right behind the driver's seat, from the B pillar over and across the tunnel. That's just how much the chassis flexes. And in racing, we want the absolute most rigid platform we can have. If you've ever seen like professional graded race cars with their bodies off, all you're going to see is just a mass of tubes and lots of triangles. Triangles, because triangle is the strongest engineering form. So in racing, in race cars, there's triangles everywhere. It's my favorite shape is triangles, and you'll see why in a little bit. So it's important to start with the chassis. And help these days. So, so the first thing, well, actually the second thing we developed for the platform, Fox platform, I'll get to the first thing in a minute. The second thing we developed was subframe connectors. And if you look underneath the Fox body, there's like a subframe in the front and a subframe in the back and the span in between. Well, what happens is that gets twisting. And when a car twists, there's a couple of things. You're actually using horsepower to make a car twist. So for the drag racing guys, rather than putting power down, horsepower is going into twisting the chassis. And for us track guys, if the car is not rigid and twists, then the entire car becomes a fifth unwanted and unregulated suspension member. And you don't want that. So the second thing we did, and I'll get the first minute, that we did was create a subframe connector that went from front to rear subframe. And when I was looking at it, that's a big span. So we actually did the double cross design, which puts a U channel that bolts right to the back of to the seats of the car, right to the back of the seats. And by that, here it comes. So yeah, there's the double cross design. This is the original. I know you've seen tons and tons of copies of this. In fact, the amount of stuff in the market that I've been copied is just amazing. So with the double cross design, first of all, it's pretty stout, but it reduces it. We have this bolted to the seat base. It reduces the free span to captured, you know, on this end, I mean, the free span of capture drops down to this, and over here it drops down to that. So it reduces the free span of capture. We had one guy call us one time we first put these out, and he said these aren't strong enough. He had it between two milk crates, and he was bouncing on the middle. And he said it bent. Okay, it's supposed to be when you bolt it up, you know, you're not going to be able to bend it because that's tight, and we also make it so it actually fits, you know, right up to the chassis, so it's easy to run. All of our undercar chassis pieces are high quality steel, and they are zinc plated for rust protection. And also under the car we weld pieces on, and the reason for that is, you know, Ford doesn't bolt the cars together, they weld them together. So any of the chassis stuff underneath we coat with zinc, and it gets welded in. And also if you have powder coated pieces, I mean, that's not good. If you know anything about welding a powder coated piece, you know the fumes they create are noxious. So actually now the first piece that we created for the Fox platform, which one do you want? Oh, Fox. Let's start with Fox, was jacking rails. And we actually came up with the jacking rails on the 86 Celine cars because, you know, it's endurance racing. I mean, the shortest race we had was 6 hours, mostly 24 and 12-hour races. Well, you can imagine how many times you've got to pull in, jack the car up, change the tire, change the brake pads. So by doing that so often, what we did is we came up with the jacking rail, which is like, again, we've got this nicely yellow or silver zinc chromate plated jacking rail, so that we could jack up anywhere along the pinch weld. This was welded right up against the pinch weld. You stitch welded in. And by doing that, we could, if we wanted to do one side of the car, we'd jack it up in the middle, get both tires off. If we just want to do something in the front, you jack it up in the front. So it just made it really easy. And the SCCA tech inspectors saw that, and they decided that was an illegal extra chassis support piece. I mean, my God, the car's got a full roll cage in it. And so this little 1x1 piece of steel is, and anyway, long story short, I had to cut little notches with a hacksaw and to cut it into thirds so it wasn't continual. In '87, it didn't even bother us. So we just kept these. So we just carried it out over in the aftermarket, because if you've got a car that's lowered, you know, you don't know where to put the jack. So having a jacking rail is like almost mandatory. So, and the other little trick I'll tell you with jacking rails is kind of experiment, and you can find where the middle is. When you jack it up, both wheels come up. Put a little piece of tape or paint or something at that point on the rocker panel, so you know that's where to put the jack. And then when you do, put a little piece of tape across the jack right where looking down from the rocker panel. So it's just easy. Zip it in and zip it up. Now on the S197s, they're a little bit different, and we actually had to build a little different jacking rail that has holes to get, there's some little button things in there that we had to clear. So that's a little bit different. But the jacking rail and the subframe connectors were the first two pieces. And then I'm looking at it and I'm going, okay, I can make this better. Remember triangles? I love triangles. So that's when I put together the matrix piece. And what the matrix does, I can actually step back here and do this. The matrix actually ties together the subframe connectors here and the jacking rails on the outside. I got it. Okay. And if you notice, we make between the jacking rail to here, that's one triangulation. Subframe to here, another triangulation. Subframe, triangulation, jacking rail, triangulation. So that's 4 full triangulations per side. And that does an absolutely amazing job of stiffening up the chassis. We've had people, we've installed that and people have driven away, and before they even got out of the parking lot or down the street, they call back and say, my God, it's a different car. And if you think that making the chassis stiffer makes the ride stiffer, you're absolutely wrong, 100% opposite. Doing the chassis support just completely makes the car ride and drive so much better. It knocks it, it takes away squeaks and rattles. So it's almost mandatory. Got somebody else to admit. So that's kind of on the bottom of the car. And then on the top of the car, what we did is we used to have a full range of strut tire braces. We were first introduced 3-point strut tire braces, but some of you know that I had some health issues. I took a hiatus, and then we came back and had a bad relationship with the manufacturer. So we brought manufacturing back in-house, and we're trying to get everything back online. We're about halfway through all of our products, and we're getting to them as quickly as I can. But here's an example of the, I'll pretend I'm an engine, of the strut tower brace. And again, what do we got? You're going to say, well, that's one triangulation. It's not quite a triangle, but it's due to packaging. That's the best we could do. But that's not true. It's three. So you got the one strut tower to firewall is one triangulation, but also if you went from the firewall down, that's another firewall down. So three triangulations underneath the hood, which really stiffens it up. Now the only strut tower brace we have right now in production is for the 03, 04 Cobras. We're looking to do more, but we have a long list of things to do. If you've got a platform you might be interested in, please send us an email, because what we, it's kind of like we have a long list of products to bring back, and we're going down there was the most demand. So anything that you'd like us to see build, be sure to send something in, so that we can think about where that fits in the scheme of things. So we've got the chassis stiffened up. So now the next thing is suspension, chassis, suspension, wheels, tires, brakes, suspension. Going back to like the Saline program, I was just nuts about geometry. I spent a lot of time studying geometry. I've got, I still have my original computer suspension geometry program, and it's kind of like getting difficult, because let's see, it was, to give you an idea when I got it, it's written in DOS, and it's I've had it a long time. There's a lot of miles on that geometry program, and I've got a problem. I always have to keep one computer that's 32-bit, because it won't run anything faster. But I still use it all the time, because it's the best. I think it's the best out there. Unfortunately, it was supposed to be updated to Windows, but the guy that wrote the program passed away, and his family just dropped it. I mean, the whole thing just disappeared from the face of the earth. So I'm just keeping this baby alive, because it's done me well. So in 2000 SEMA show, we introduced 3.5, which is a front grip kit, which is the tubular K-member, control arms, offset rack bushings, and caster plus. Caster plus we'll get to in a minute. And when I did the K-member, it's, there's a lot of K-members out there that people talk about how light they are. Well, my K-members were not about light. They're all about strength and geometry first. And any weight savings is kind of like a bonus. But I'm not looking to save weight. I want something that's going to strong. It's going to stand up to track days and road racing. So first of all, that's really strong. I'm not going to hold one of them up, because it's like big and heavy. But if you go to our website, then you can see what the K-member looks like, and it's robust. I mean, and it's robust. And even though we engineer for strength first, I think we still knock off like 40 pounds off the nose of the car, which is a bonus. It's like I want strength first. And then we did the control arms, and this is actually, this is the best I could do right now. We have another batch of control arms in production right now, because we just went through these at a pretty good clip. We've actually updated the bushing in the back to 5/8. It's a little heftier bushing, but this is the control arm we came up with. Now, a lot of control arms you see are kind of like tubes, and it's just just a triangle after the ball joint. Some even put like maybe a brace back here. But when we looked at that, we wanted to do something even a little better. So again, if you look at this, there's not one triangulation, there's two. We got the triangle here and the triangle there, and this is stout material. Plus, we've got extended ball joint. We were the very first people to use extended ball joints in the industry. Back when we started doing these, there was nothing for a Mustang available, so we had to actually use the ball joints off of an ASA car, circle track car, and modify them to work. But now, I mean, everybody's got extended ball joints. I didn't tell you about the strut tower, 3-point strut tower brace. The first 3-point strut tower brace on late model Mustangs appeared on the '86 Saline cars at Road Atlanta in 1986, and they work great. But the SCCA did it. That's not on the production car. So needless to say, '87 all the Saline Mustangs had 3-point strut tower braces. So now everybody's got them. So what was it left? I thought this. Control arms. I left off in control arms.
So I'm going to interrupt you for a minute. You're like speeding through this.
Um,
But anyway, I wanted to just interrupt. If you guys have questions that you would like to ask Kenny, add them to the chat. And then after he finishes his speedy presentation, he will.
I just get ramped up. And once I get guys that have been with me for a while know once I get going, boy, I get going.
So
it's not like I don't enjoy this stuff. You know?
So anyway, add your questions, and then we will call on you when it's time to answer questions. You can ask him directly. So put your questions in the chat. Okay.
Okay. Another piece of the front grip kit on the SN95 cars. Also on the 94, 95 SN95s had a 5-liter. So you can adapt the SN95 K-member to a Fox Mustang. You have to do a couple trim a few things just to make it fit, but it's pretty darn close. Now the older the Mustangs get, the more messing you have to do because the tolerances in the like pre-85 cars was pretty loose. So anyway, another piece that we do is to help bump steer. We actually have an offset rack bushing, and by taking the rack and moving it up, we actually help the bump steer. And the bump steer is something I talk a lot about in the classes and sometimes in Cars and Coffee, but we went over a lot of bump steer in the Speed Therapy Academy. Along with geometry, I had an entire evening of 2 evenings, I think, of geometry. 3 evenings I did of geometry. And if you're just joining us, I did it without you telling me this. if you're just joining us, welcome. And I keep talking about a few things. We have this live Saturday mornings, 10 o'clock, Kenny Brown Performance YouTube channel, or Kenny Brown Performance Facebook or YouTube channel. And then we've got we're up to 30 episodes of Cars and Coffee, and we've got all those live on YouTube, Kenny Brown TV on YouTube. And then we also have, we formed I won't call it exclusive, but a nice group called the Speed Therapy Society. It's a private Facebook group, and we've got over 450 members. 500, over 500 members, and it's if you're not a member, please join. It's a lot of like-minded people that love their cars, love their track cars. So please join, and we do. There's a lot of information there. That's where all the questions come from. From my Saturday morning Cars and Coffee come out of the Speed Therapy Society. And I did a workshop earlier in the year, and people just seemed to want to get deeper and deeper into my head. So then we put together what we call the Speed Therapy Academy, and that's actually a 12 turning into 13-week course. We meet twice a week, and I pretty much try to unload as much of my brain as I can. We take a much deeper look and dive on all the different parts of the car, and this is the first one we've done, and we're getting some positive feedback. Carrie thinks she wants us to do another one after the first of the year. So there'll be more information on that if you might be interested. But if you really want to learn, this is like really learn about this stuff. You might want to think about the academy, because when I mentioned geometry, like I said, we spent 3 days on geometry, and some of the stuff they're sworn to secrecy on, just because I am copied so much. We don't need some of my philosophy on geometry getting out to too many people. So now she's telling me something.
There's a lot of Academy members here that joined after they can't get enough.
Yeah, Carrie said we have a lot of our Academy members are with us tonight, and apparently they just can't get enough of me.
But comment that you're here so you can see the Academy members. It's a pretty cool group of people. And
it's a really, really cool group of people. And the reason I'm doing it like this is we do the Saturday morning we do Cars and Coffee on Facebook. But the Academy is done on Zoom just like this. And this is just like how I do the Academy. I wear my little Academy shirt. I got my whiteboard in the back in case I need it. So I thought for this workshop that the Speed Therapy Academy format would be much better with Zoom than Facebook. So that's why we're in Zoom tonight. Okay, I did got my stuff in there. Where did I leave off now? I left off with the K-member. The K-member and control arms. And I guess the other thing that we do is we do have a front sway bar.
heavy.
And we did, and this is our tubular front sway bar, and we did a lot of development testing to come up with just the perfect sway bar. I think we tested 4 different tubed wall thicknesses, and this is the one that seemed to be the absolute best for all. And as you can see, you got 3 adjusters. You can go soft, medium, or hard. So I mean, that took a lot of development to come up with just the right one. And if you're, you know, I'll give away a secret. It's 1 1/4, 188, well, 4130. So don't tell anybody. So that's kind of like the whole front package, with the exception of one thing I forgot is Caster Plus. Doesn't matter. Now, I came up with Caster Plus because back when we were building all these SN95 cars and Fox cars, you know, every time we got a caster camber plate, I'd always adjust it with maximum caster. And for those who've been with me know that I am absolutely nuts about maximum caster. You cannot put too much caster into a Mustang. It does a lot of good things. You know, high-speed stability, turn-in, and you know, the guys in the academy know exactly what I'm talking about as far as how it impacts geometry. So what I decided to do is eliminate the caster adjustment, and by eliminate the caster adjustment, I could push the caster all the way back as far as it would go. And I picked up, I can't remember, it's been a long time, at least a ½ degree extra caster, which is really, really important for my geometry. And also, the other little clue is the wheelbase with the front K-member is 1 inch longer, which again adds more caster. So I had buckets of caster. Even S197 cars get tons of caster. So, I mean, caster is your friend. If you're getting in alignment, just every ounce of caster will take, and it doesn't matter if it's not even side to side, go with max, just plain and simple. So that's why we came up with the Caster Plus package. And it, you know, all there is camber adjustment. You know, caster's taken care of, and I got more caster this way. And I've got a little trick that I showed the both Cars and Coffee and Therapy, and Academy, is, you know, everybody, you know, talks about, you know, well, I got a street alignment, I got track alignment, you know, I hate going back and forth. I got the solution. What you do is you go to your local alignment shop and you get your street alignment. And we've actually got, I have alignment specs for all of, you know, all the platforms in the Speed Therapy Society resource, and the units script. There's a whole page on alignment. But what you do is you get your alignment, and then you make a little mark with a Sharpie where the bolt is, and when you go to the track, then you just drop it all the way down, put all the camber it'll get, and then from there you start working with your tire temperatures and start taking camber out until you get, you know, the sweet spot, and then when you're done with the weekend, all you have to do is just put it right back to the lines and drive home, and you don't have to get realigned. So that's a little trick for street alignment, track alignment. And I've got a whole thing on tire temperatures and pressures and camber, and we talk about that in both, actually, in Cars and Coffee and the Academy. And she's coming up here to tell me something. Oh no, okay, I'm doing okay.
But how many people are track people and street people?
Oh yeah, Carrie wants to know. Let us know how many people are track people, street people, race people, or a combination thereof. Because that'd kind of be cool to know. Because like I say, I engineer my cars and for the track, but they're engineered for the street. You can take the track, or they're engineered for the track and you take it to the street. Either way. The only real difference between our street cars, track cars, and race cars, once we have the platform, the suspension, because, you know, my suspensions only have like 3 basic parts: rear suspension, front suspension, and springs and shocks. And, you know, rear suspension's the system, front suspension's the system, and then the springs and shocks. And the only real difference in going upscale is the difference in spring rates. You know, I've been like using way more spring rates than anybody else in the industry for years and years and years. And a lot of people are finally catching up to me. But to give you an idea, like I use S197 for example, because that's what we're doing the most of now. S197s have a front spring rate from the factory of about 130, 140, somewhere in there. Most of the aftermarket sport springs, you know, the lowering springs get you up to maybe 190. Sport springs get you up to 220. Our touring package is 350 front spring rate. Sport touring, street performance, novice track is at 400, and track guys on street tires, still on street tires. I'll put them in the 500 range, but our advanced track guys with like good track tires were like 650 fronts. And the rear is actually a fit. I don't talk about rear spring rate because I've factored that in when I'm choosing the springs for people. Any of the coilovers you get from me, you get them with. I talk to you, you get the springs you need, and they're pre-adjusted. But anyway, the 650 is our tracks setup, and I think that's a lot. On my late son Paul's World Challenge GTS car, Boss Mustang, with Pirelli slicks and motorsport shocks, we were running 850 to 950 spring rate. So you can see the more spring you put into a Mustang, the faster it becomes, but also the harder it becomes to drive. So I try to put people in stages and spring rates. Anyway, I'm getting off subject. So I was talking about, left off with Castor, got talking about shocks and springs. So that's pretty much on SN95, the front end, and that also carries over the Fox. In fact, that second Castor plate was for a Fox. Castor Plus was for a Fox. The first one was for SN95. And we use urethane bushing on top, so it's quiet. It doesn't make any rattles. So it's just a smooth operation, whether it's street or track. So now we're getting back to the big thing, the IRS. Back to 5 points. Chassis, suspension, probably on number 2. Suspension B, part B, the rear suspension. Part A, front suspension. Part B, the rear suspension.
That's number 2 of the.
Yes, number 2. And I spent a lot of time doing the IRS between 99 when I first started working on them and the 2000 SEMA show, which was the end of 2000. We did a lot of work on figuring the IRS out. And it worked out pretty good. And over the years, we've have a lot of people that come to us with IRS looking for improve their IRS. So I kind of put together a formula and how to get to like one of my like CSR complete IRS packages in stages. It's because that's the way a lot of people approach it, is stages. Because I mean, first thing everybody wants to do is get rid of some of the wheel hop, and we can do that. But we have to start in one place. The place we start is we call phase 1. And it's kind of like a combination steering traction package. And it starts with a heavy duty forward torque brace. Now the one that comes from the factory is tube steel with squished ends, and it's not that strong. It allows things to move around. So this is like really heavy duty. I mean, this is rock solid. So the forward torque brace is kind of like the starting point. And then from there is our aluminum diff bushings. I should say patented. We didn't patent them, but it's, we've been using these. I don't know if anybody else has come up with them yet, but I'm sure they will. And by using aluminum, I do a couple of things. I use aluminum, plus if you can see, there's like these aluminum washers, and there's big, small, big, small, big, small. Well, if you look at that, it kind of looks like a heat sink. And that's one of the purposes, is to help pull some of the heat out of the IRS, because there's no place for heat to go in IRS. It's mounted in rubber, and they'll build up heat, and we'll talk about that later on. So having this stack, you can actually act like a heat sink. But also with this, I can adjust pinion angle. Now the way the instructions say is you put all the shims up on the top. And this will put, with this on the bottom, that puts the diff at the same pinion angle as factory. But what we found is all the cars I built, I put the pinion angle all the way up, which means I switch all the washers to the bottom. And reason for that is we had a customer, I can't remember, 2000, 2001, whatever it was, had a Cobra. And he had some drive line vibration that he just couldn't get rid of. He had it to the Ford dealer a number of times, and they replaced drive shafts and axle shafts, and they replaced just about everything. He got frustrated. He brought the car up to us, and all we did was put in the aluminum disc bushings, but we put the nose of the differential up as high as it would go, increased the pinion angle, vibration went away. So needless to say, every car I build, that's the exact way I do them now. So that's kind of like the starting point. That's phase one, is let's, you know, stabilize, at least stabilize the differential, because we're a lot of, oh, got one thing. Rear steer kit. This is something else that's unique to us. This is a rear steer kit. And what I discovered, I was doing testing at Road Atlanta with Ford Racing. They were doing a media event for the FR500. I don't know if anybody remembers that. The SN95 FR500s had a IRS in the back and a double wishbone in the front, and the new FR500 engine. We were at Road Atlanta doing a media thing with all the Ford magazines were there. And you know, the thing I noticed is that in the very far end of Road Atlanta, there's two real sharp right-hand turns. On the second turn, you get about halfway around, the car got loose. Well, they didn't have the kink in the straightaway back then, so it was just high speed all the way over the hump and down into the last turn. And coming under that bridge, the back end was getting loose again, which is really scary at that point. So I got back and got into my trusty geometry program and started messing with it. And what I discovered is when the Mustang gets to a certain degree of roll, and don't ask me what it is because it's been too long, when it gets to a certain degree of roll, both rear tires would steer the wrong way. That's why the car got loose, because as the car was rolling, and saying right-hand turn, it's rolling on the left side, the tires are turning left. So that's why the back of the car got loose. So I found that we could reduce quite a bit of it by moving the inner pickup point all the way down to the bottom, which takes about half of the roll steer out. And we have people that actually, you know, drag race these and say they actually help to keep the tires straight going down the drag strip. So that's the phase one, the forward brace, the diff bushings, and rear steer. And that will help start you on the way to taking out some of the wheel hop. And what the wheel hop comes from is that everything is mounted in rubber. And it's all for NVH, you know, to keep it quiet and smooth for street driving. But what happens is you try to accelerate really fast and the tires will grip. Well, as they grip, it kind of like moves everything in the IRS. And then they'll kind of like bounce back and forth, grip release, grip release, grip release, and that's when your wheels start hopping. At that point, there's not enough shock in there, shock absorber to control the movement, and that's how you get wheel hop. So we start by stabilizing the differential. So that's one piece that doesn't move when you start doing, when you go for a launch, and then by keeping the rear tire straight, that kind of helps. So that's kind of like phase one. In phase two is when we really start making some big improvements. Phase two is our tubular lower control arms. And but you can't see all the triangles in here. Remember I talked triangles? This is a really stout piece. We go to urethane bushings on the chassis side, and this converts to a coilover shock. I actually have the coilover shocks for the SN95s are custom built for me by Strange Engineering. We first started doing the shocks on this. On Brandon's car, I had some double adjustable conies for live axles. So I started with them, and I had max bump, max rebound, and there still was not enough control of the IRS. So that's when I went to Coney, and we went through and talked through some of my strategies for shock valving, and we came up with a valving package. But the problem was they're so busy. Sometimes it would take us like 2 months to get a set of shocks, but it didn't work. So when we were up in Chicago, I went to Strange and I met with them and talked to Dimitri, their shock guy. And I had my shock book. Those have been with me for a while. So I've got a whole book full of shock dynos on what I like and what I don't like. And I sat down with Dimitri and I said, this is what I like. Can you do something like this? And he looked at it and said, yeah, I can build you a shock like that. So boom, he started building our IRS rear shocks, and either single or double adjustable, which just really changes the game. It's a real game changer, being able to A, have a good shock in the back with the valving I like, and B, being able to choose spring rates. And for all our customers with coilovers, I choose the spring rate for their application. So then that was really good. So we went to the front, and they also built me a custom strut for the front custom valve strut for the front, the coilover, because our front suspension system actually converts the coilover. But taking out the factory spring is how we, help save like 40 pounds. So I had Dimitri build my shocks. They've been building my shocks ever since, and we're really happy with them. Now the fronts only come in double adjustable. That's the only way I can get them. But I send a shock setup sheet with people so they know what to do with it. So that's kind of like stage 2, and that really, you talk about really getting rid of wheel hop by having the urethane bushings and really good shocks and really good springs. The wheel hop kind of goes away. But on the really urethane bushings, something I got to stress is that you get these little tubes of the gooeyest grease in the world. And if you ever get on fingers, you know what I mean. You have to lubricate with urethane bushings. You have to lubricate the pin that goes into them. This has to be lubricated, and then you slide it in. And then on the face, put just a really, really light coat of grease on the face. You don't want to gob it up. You gob it up, this collects dust, and that's worse. So lubricate the pin, a light face of lubrication on the.
Use the glove.
And yeah. The best thing is use gloves. If you do get on your hands, you're going to find out, and nothing takes it off. Not brake clean or soap or anything. I've been told that WD-40 will actually help take it off. But just easy, just get some gloves. I mean, everybody has gloves these days. Get some gloves and put it on. And then the other thing with the lower control arm is we do a sway bar adjustable sway bar end links, which they're nice spherical bearings, so really positive. They make a difference, and they're adjustable, so you can be sure that there's no preload on the rear sway bar. I'm just kind of belting right through this. So stage 3 is going to a tubular upper control arm, and this is kind of interesting. We spend a lot of time in the computer, in the engineering computer, looking at FEA analysis and looking at how we could do a better upper control arm than the factory and make it lighter. And this is the design we came up with. Rather than traditionally having two tubes that came back, just like kind of an A-frame type thing, we actually have a main tube, and then this one cuts across to the other one, and then we bring, oops, I should do it this way, bring a tube off of that out to the end. And in FEA, it looks remarkable. I mean, it's just really, really strong, and it's light. It's another key part to making the taking 40 some pounds out of the back end. And just like the factory, we've got a little cam adjuster in there for camber. Okay, have I got through all the IRS?
Yes. Talk about the
Phase 4, the magic phase.
Rich Amira is on here. He just bought one. So
Phase 4. This is where the real magic happens. Phase 4 is what we call our geometry improved IRS carrier. In common words, we take IRS carrier, we cut the pickup points off, we put them back on in a new positioning, which does a whole lot of things. I don't want to give too many secrets away, but we changed the camber gain, we changed the roll center, we changed the anti-squat. We had anti-squat to it, and then we even fixed all of the rear roll steer, but we lowered the inner pickup point even more. So I mean, it's a complete geometry package, and it's through a lot of computer work and a lot of track testing is what we came up with, and it works like a dream. And the other thing that we do is, if you've got an IRS car, at the very back where it mounts to the frame, there's this great big clunky mounting thing that kind of sticks out. It's heavy, it's ugly, and if you want to put a wider tire on the back, it limits you. So what we do, we cut that off, and we put a bracket on there so the back of the carrier bolts directly to the frame, which means it is solid mounted. I mean, you don't have to change the urethane bushings or anything. It's just rocks. It's solid mounted right to the frame, so it doesn't move. So that whole package, just the entire IRS package, is just amazing to drive. I mean, it just completely changes the car. I mean, I'm sure there's some people out there that can attest to that. You know, you know, we've made a whole lot of Cobras really drive well really quick. In fact, one year, I can't remember what year it was, that at the end of the season, I think the last track event, it was at Putnam Park in October or something. And after that, we had 5 2000 Cobra Rs in the shop at the same time, all getting suspension updates. So, I mean, there's a lot of Cobras out there with a suspension, and there's like getting more and more every day. And like I said, anybody's ever driven one, it's just totally amazing. And we're starting to see a lot of people are upgrading. They want to put the IRS into Fox Mustangs and also into SN95 GTs that have live axles. And I'm all for it, you know, go. Because I just, you know, it makes a lot of sense, especially in a Fox. Just, I mean, Fox is so much lighter. And, you know, putting an IRS in the back of Fox, especially when we've got our front grip kit on it. I mean, again, they're going to drive like a dream. And I know I've seen there's a while back, there was one article that did a really good job of installing an IRS carrier into a Fox. I checked a while back, and was a number of videos that were kind of like, you know, not really professional, but even so, there are people putting IRS into Fox cars. So it's doable. It's really doable. We've got a car coming in within the next month or so. It's an 84 SVO Mustang. You don't see too many of them. And we're actually doing a complete update and improvement on it. And to me, that includes an IRS. I mean, if the 99 to 04 SVO Cobra Mustangs had an IRS, and certainly an 84 SVO Mustang should have an IRS. So we're going to be putting that in there. And I think as we do that, we're going to, you know, take some notes and pictures. And even make parts if we need to, so that we can, going forward, we'll be able to help people do an upgrade with an IRS into a Fox or an SN95. It'd be easy in SN95 because they just bolt right in. The Fox, I think you have to do a little work with, but it's very durable. And along those lines, you know, we started looking for an IRS for this one car coming in, and finding complete IRS 9904 IRSs is getting really tough. I mean, it's getting really tough. And we've got one car, we've got Roy's car in here, which is a 99 Cobra that he races in NASA AIX. It's a wicked car. It's Roy, if you're out there, I need to talk to you about your engine tomorrow. That's a separate subject. Roy had a small catastrophe a couple weekends ago. He was racing on the very first lap, very first turn. Somebody hit somebody, and that somebody hit Roy, spun him all the way around, and he couldn't get the clutch in fast enough, and the engine went backwards for a little bit. So we're taking a look at that. But anyway, the engine we put into that, I know the engine manager at Roush Yates, and a long time ago I asked him to look around and see if any Daytona prototype engines left. And for those who know, Daytona prototypes were the 24-hour Daytona cars, a number of years back, and Ford came out with a 5-liter engine specifically for that. And you know, I got one day, I just got ready to order some other parts to build this engine, and boom, John said, "Hey, I found the last Daytona prototype engine in the corner of a warehouse. You want it?" You bet. So we got a real Daytona prototype engine, dry sump and all. In fact, it's actually engine 0012. So we had to adapt that, and that's another story, but we adapted it with some of my FR500 pieces to clear the hood. It makes a bunch of power. It's a dry sump, and he's running I think we're running 315 Hoosiers on the front and 335s on the back, and got the full shock package, geometry, everything, and it's a really fun car. You know, speaking of the FR500, I forgot to finish the story on Kermie. Kirby's engine was, you know, we had the supercharged V6, which worked pretty good. However, you know, I was working with Ford Racing a lot back then, and we were going to do a video or a test with Motor Week at VIR, and for that I wanted to switch over to a V8. Well, we were having trouble, you know, getting the kind of power we were looking for and getting the right parts. So I was fortunate enough to be granted a 4.6 FR500 prototype engine, which, man, that was awesome. It would make like 385 horsepower, you know, in 2001. That was pretty darn good in a 4.6 Mustang. So that's how it finished his life, is with an FR500 prototype engine and magnesium intake manifold and all. So that's what we put on the top of this Daytona prototype engine, except we modified the manifold so it's just straight runner, straight down. So anyway, I diverted. So where did I leave off?
We're at the end of the IRS suspension.
End of the IRS suspension. And anyway, I'm sure you probably got the point that we worked our tail off to do the absolute best suspension I could underneath these Mustangs, and it works. I mean, my whole philosophy about the parts that I make is you bolt them on and go. I try to make it as seamless and as painless as possible, so you're not screwing with things all the time. You just bolt it on and go. And it's Oh, forgot your shock tower brace. One more piece that I came up with: when we convert to coilovers in the back. Wrong way.
Oh,
the logo's upside down. Anyway, when we convert to coilovers in the back, we strongly recommend you get a rear shock tower brace. Now this goes from shock tower to shock tower. You can see where the shock goes through there, and it bolts on both sides, and it also bolts in the middle. Anybody see a triangle here? Even though it's tiny, it's still a triangle. That really helps the back of the car when you start putting all the load of spring and shock into the shock towers. This really helps tighten it all up. So almost forgot about that. Another chassis piece. It's like I develop part when I can't find something I like in the aftermarket that's going to do what I want it to do. I just build a part and create it. And that's my carryover from the 70s racing. There wasn't a lot of, you couldn't go places and buy cool stuff. You had to make it yourself. So I kind of got used to that. So we've been through the chassis, we've been through the front suspension, we've been through the rear suspension, chassis, suspension, wheels, tires, brakes. Okay, we're up to wheels and tires. Okay, wheels and tires. What I ran on Kermie was the 2000R wheels. They were 18 by 9.5 with a 285/35 Pirelli Corsa tire, and that worked great. I mean, if you're looking for a street track setup, it's pretty easy. I mean, that's a great package. We also just found out, just within the last day, one of our wheel manufacturers is coming to market with a new wheel for SN95, be available after the first of the year. It's a flow form wheel. It's quasi-formed, flow form wheel. And I talk about that in some of our wheel sections. But it's going to have the same offset as the 2000R wheels. It's 18 by 9.5. I think they're under $350 a piece. It's going to be a really good option if you're looking for that. But otherwise, I mean, you can try to put any wheel and tire package on. We've seen, like on Roy's car, we've got 315s in the front and 335s in the back. But we had to put fender flares on to do that. I see a lot of people that are on like 295s and 305s in the back. I think we ran 315s on the back before we put the big tires on, before we put the big motor in. We ran 315s on, it had to be like an 11-inch wheel. So I think that's possible. Getting that kind of tire on the front with that flares is kind of tough. But I mean, you can certainly play with wheels and tires. But having a good tire on the car is every bit as important as a good set of shocks. And the other thing, here's a little tip, and we learned about this in one of the master classes in the Speed Therapy Academy we have with Steve Sharp from Forge Line Wheels. Always look at the load rating on a wheel before you buy it, especially if you're going on track. The load rating has to be printed on there somewhere. And if it's like under 1,000 pounds load rating, be very, very skeptical. If there's no load rating, don't buy it at all. But if it's under 1,000 pounds of load rating, be very, very skeptical. I think these new wheels are 1,200 pound load rating because the last thing you want to do is be on track and have a wheel break. I mean, that ends up being a really bad day. So in choosing wheels, check the load rating and make sure it's over 1,000 pounds, over 1,100 preferably. And some of them will have like SFI inspected or tested, but you just bite the bullet and get decent wheels. It's really, really important. I remember at Mid Ohio, I don't know, if 86 or 87. I think that was a 12-hour, that was a 24-hour race there. In the middle of the night, one of the tech guys came up to me with, one of the other Mustang wheels, and the center was broken out of it. And, and he came to me and he said, "Is this wheel safe?" And I said, "Well, I see two pieces of the wheel. That's not supposed to be a two-piece wheel." So I'd say no. So they wouldn't let that car run anymore with those wheels. So, I mean, it's really important that you get good wheels. And tires, there's so many good tires out there now. A good street tire, the street track tire that we use is the Michelin Pilot Sport 4S. That's a really good street tire that you can take to the track. Our track tires are Pirelli P0 Corsas. Michelin has some Cup 2 tires that are really good for the track. So, I mean, there's a lot of good tire choices out there for the track, and wheels, just get a good wheel. Chassis, suspension, wheels, tires, brakes. Okay, if you want to go, you better whoa. And what brakes are a heat machine. And by heat machine, what I mean is that Mustang hurtling down the track is like 3,800 pounds of kinetic energy. And there's a number of ways to stop the car, where guardrails and trees are the least preferable. Brakes are the most preferable. But what happens is you turn that kinetic, what the brakes do is turn the kinetic energy into heat energy. And they do that via the pads and the rotors. And that's why I really pound into people, you need to have track pads and street pads, because never the twain shall meet. And it's all about temperature range. Street pads have a very low temperature range, even below 0, because they have to drive on the street. Or street pads on a track, they go way beyond. I mean, you start doing some heavy stops, and the heat just really soars up. On my 2012, Ruby, my track car, I see 1,200 degrees front rotor temperature, and that's with brake ducts. So, and we have what we do is I always talk about street pads, race pads, and we have we've been switching people over to our G-lock pads because it seems to be for the track guy. They seem to be better, easier on rotors. I've got 12 different compounds I can choose from depending on your application. And I'd like if you call in and tell us what you want to do with them, I'll recommend some pad compounds. But you've got to get the right pad for the right brakes. If you have a street pad that only goes to 500 degrees, and even in the novice class, you're seeing 800 degrees rotor temperature, the pads are going to fail. I mean, I've seen it time and time again. If you've got the right pad, like the pads I use in Ruby, I use kind of a competition pad, which has a heat range from 400 to 1600. So 1200 is right in the middle. With the G-locks we're using now, like I said, I got 10 or 12 different compounds I can choose from. The other thing about the G-locks is we can get them pre-bedded. So when you go to the track, you don't have to worry about bedding the pads, they're pre-bedded. So that's kind of like a little deal on pads. And you also have to use high temperature brake fluid because that's important. If your rotors get hot, your pads get hot, then your brake fluid is going to get hot. And if you don't have high temperature brake fluid, it's going to boil. And when it boils, you got no brakes. You hit the brakes and go straight into the wall. That's the other way to stop a car. And this is an example of one of our brake ducts. Yeah, this is I guess we've got a bunch of powder coat right now. So this is an older one. Don't worry about it. I can use this. But the thing about my brake ducts that's different is it's oval. And the reason it's oval, we use a 3-inch hose. And by making it oval, when you look through the end of the brake duct into the brake, you see 100% of the air through here goes into the eye of the rotor. And that's where you want the air, because our brake's cooled from the center out. So by making it oval, we can actually get 100% of the air into the eye of the rotor. On the FR500S Mustang race cars that Ford Racing built for the Mustang Challenge, they used a 4-inch brake duct, and I've seen other people with 4-inch brake ducts, which you'd think that would be better because it's a bigger hose, but in reality, if it's 4-inch, it's like half of the opening hits up against the face of the rotor. And that does a couple things. First of all, it disrupts the airflow coming in because you got some fast air moving here, air crashing into the rotor, and kind of tumbles around. So you're reducing airflow into the eye. But secondly, you're cooling one face of the rotor more than the other. And we noticed that with the Mustang Challenge cars is that we had uneven wear pads side to side, and that's because the rotors were running at different inside-outside temperatures. So that's why I went to oval, so we can get all that air into the center, and they work really, really good. On the 550 cars, which we're getting into tonight, we stuck with round because they got huge rotors, and it wasn't a problem. So we have these for the SN95, and you can use them on a Fox if you upgrade. Anytime you're upgrading a Fox, I recommend using a 96 or newer spindle, convert to 5-lug. And the reason I say 96 or newer, because there was a geometry change in 96, which made the steering geometry better. And all of our brake ducts only fit 96 and newer. So if you're upgrading to 5-lug, get 96 or newer spindle. So, I mean, that brake pads, brake ducts, and we've got, upgrading a big brake, everybody talking about big brake kits. And we've got a couple of them. We work pretty much exclusively with Bear. We've been with them for years and years and years. Bear was instrumental in my son Paul's World Challenge ETS Championship. They came up with a special set of 4-piston brakes because he went to the first race with Bear 6-piston. They said, no, can't run them. You have to run 4. So Bear came up with a special set of 4-piston calipers, and that was one of the things that helped them win that championship. So we've got a good street setup in the Pro Plus it uses a brake arm and brake pad. Street performance, excellent. It's even good for HPD. We had Roy before he converted to our big brake package. He ran those brakes for, I think, 2 years in HPD, but he had the right pads. They didn't last real long, but he had the right pads, so that the brakes never failed on them. So then we've got the Extreme Plus, which actually is that's a robust, purpose-built 6-piston caliper and rotor setup. All our rotors are two-piece slotted. You don't want drilled, absolutely not want drilled rotors. Drilled rotors, even though they look cool, when you get them hot, if you have them on track and get them hot, I absolutely, unconditionally, positively guarantee they will crack at the holes. Happens every time. We only use slotted, and we use slotted because the slots do 2 things. One, they help reduce the gases that build up between the pad and the rotor. At the trailing edge of the brake pad, there's going to be a buildup of gas pressure, and the slots help vent that gas out. And secondly, it also helps get rid of the dust. In this 86 and 87 Saleen cars, we couldn't run slotted rotors, so a lot of times when we change the brakes, they're like a wedge. Because the back was not making full contact because the pressure built up. That's why we use slotted 2-piece slotted rotors. And we've got kits for SN95 to convert to 2-piece slotted rotors. And we have big brake kits for the front on the Cobras. We do not put a big brake kit on the back. And I learned that in a very painful way, a couple painful ways. What we do is we do have a 2-piece slotted rotor that is, again, it works with a stock caliper, good pads, 2-piece slotted rotor. It's a nice upgrade. What we found by going to big brakes in the back, the spindles and bearings are, I'll use the word flimsy loosely. What happened is in our first episode with them on our World Challenge car, we put big brakes in the back, and after the S's, you go to the brake, they go right to the floor. What was happening is the pad knockback from the rotor moving was so great that the first time you stab the brakes went straight to the floor. It would take 2 to 3 pumps to get the brakes back up. So pad knockback was the first thing. And we thought, okay, the spindle must be flexing. So we took a spindle, we like bolted it to a beam in the shop, and we tried to bend it, and it bent pretty easy. So we went through and we added welded in gussets on the back of the spindle and made it super, super stiff. So, okay, we got this licked. So we went up, we were at Groton, again, testing with Ford Racing, where there are some cars. And it didn't take but about 3 laps. And I think I can't who was driving the car, but all of a sudden, the wheel, tire, axle went careening across the track. What had happened is the bearings flexed so much that the rotor came all the way down and wore itself through on the bottom ball joint on the spindle, and it just broke and came apart. So we don't do big brakes on the back. We just do rotors. Now, it's something we've been kind of talking about. I'd like your guys' feedback. You know, we're having a really hard time coming up with a spindle for the back of Roy's car. He bent a spindle in an accident. Anybody know where there's a driver's side IRS spindle? Let us know. We need one. But you know, something you just started talking about the last couple of days is give me your feedback on this. Would anybody be interested if we took the time to engineer a billet upright for the back, IRS billet, but put in like real bearings so that we could run big brake package on there? I mean, we just came up with this concept a couple of days ago when we just cannot find a spindle. So if you think that's a good idea, I mean, let me know. You know, everything we do obviously has to be market driven. I mean, some things I do for fun, but all our suspension stuff, I mean, if there's a market for it and we can create a really good product, then we'll do it. So if anybody thinks that's a good idea, let me know, because we just, I mean, this week started tossing that idea about. But if we did it, it was going to be billet, really strong, and we're going to put a bearing pack, not a, the bearing, just so you know why they're so flimsy, they're off a Taurus. The real bearings on a Cobra are off a Taurus front wheel bearing. So anyway, let me know if you think that's a good idea. We'd just like to get your feedback on that. But, oh, yeah, something else. Again, in the last couple of days, because IRS are getting scarce, I was down, guys in manufacturing, and because they're the ones that do the, you know, they sort of like remanufacture the IRS carriers, you know, cut everything off, put it back on, and put the hard points on. And I said, you know, do you think it's possible for us to just build our own carrier? And I got a couple of eye rolls. I don't know if that's good or bad. But again, if that's something you think would be worthwhile us pursuing, because like I say, we're not going to give up on the IRS. I mean, it's going to be with us for a while. But we are having problems finding complete IRSs as well as spindles for the back. I think we found 3 left-hand spindles, but no right-hand spindles. So again, your feedback, that's how I figure out what to build next, is feedback from you guys. So kind of like, let me know what you think about that. So we've got through, oh, talking about brakes, big brakes. Okay, if you're racing an SM95 and really want the absolute top of the heap killer brake package, I got it. Remember I said that, you know, Bear did a special 4-piston caliper brake setup for Paul for the GTS, his GTS championship car. A few years back, I was talking to them. I said, we really would like to come up with something really unique that we can really stamp our name on and say it was ours. And they suggested, say, hey, we built these brakes for Paul, but you know, we only built a few sets of them, and they've been sitting on the shelf ever since. So that's what we started with. We started with the brake package that Paul used in the World Challenge, and we just kept adding feature after feature after feature. And before you know it, you know, we've got as many features in the Kenny Brown Pro 4R brake package as the Brembo GTRs, which are, I think, $8,900 an axle set. And the reason we stuck with 4-piston versus 6-piston, a number of reasons. Number one, well, that's what the SCCA mandated. But a 4-piston caliper is lighter, and we also go in and we take weight out. We make pockets in the caliper that doesn't change the stiffness at all, but we take weight out. And what we use is the 6-piston brake pad. They use the same brake pad outline, backing plate that we would use in the Extreme Plus brake package, which that's what I had on Ruby. All 4 corners, man, you talk about stop. Those are the race brakes on there. But what we did is we took it a step further. We engineered them around taking a 6-piston brake pad, except they are 25 millimeters pad thickness, which means they're 0.8 and 0.98 inches thick. So the brake pads for these cars for these brakes are 1 inch thick. and they don't cost that much more than the 0.71 pads for the Extreme Plus race brakes. But it's the more pad, the better it handles heat, and obviously the less you have to change pads. They don't cost that much more than the regular 6-piston pads. So there's a whole bunch of features. Plus, what we did is we go to like a R-spec rotor, which has more vanes. It's 2-piece. It's got Belleville washers, so it's semi-floating, and of course it's slotted. It has and it actually weighs less than a regular rotor. So we got more vanes, better cooling, and it weighs less than a regular rotor. But just to give you an idea, I got this sitting back here because we just got these in yesterday for a car we're working on. But you know, you want a race brake. This is the caliper, and this is pretty chunky. I mean, you can see the castellated pistons in there. If you look underneath, you can see the pockets where we took material out to take weight off. They use 6 really high-grade bolts for clamping power rather than 4 like some of the other brakes. I mean, it's just, oh, it's got a clip on the top. So all you have to do to change brake pads is undo the clip, pull the pads out, put the pads in. It's the top loading pads. I mean, these are amazing brakes. Everybody that's put them on the car just raves about them. And we ended up coming up with all the features. I mean, majority of the features of a Brembo R8800 brake sit for, I think they're $39.95.
Jim Flattery's on it. He just received his last week.
Oh, Jim Flattery just got his last week.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and these are for Cliff. I don't know if Cliff is here tonight. These are for Cliff's car that's sitting in here. And now, so I'll hold up the rotor. This is the R-spec rotor, and you can see just how many vanes it's got in it. And it's got really, it's hard to see. It's got the Belleville washers on the back, so they're semi-floating. And of course, they're slotted. I think they're 7 pounds lighter than the regular rotor. So I mean, if you're looking for a real race brake setup for SN95 or even a Fox with SN95 spindles, you're not, dollar for dollar, you're not going to find anything better. I mean, they just, yeah, everybody that has them just loves them, and the pads last longer. And we can get, again, I have pads custom made in, I'm going to say at least 4 different compounds for the Profile R, because I'm not looking at the lower temperature, only at the race compounds. So we got different compounds we can set you up with. So yeah, like I say, those are real race. You see, we put a lot of effort and time into making these cars really cool. So in chassis, suspension, wheels, tires, brakes. Whew. I think I got through everything. I'm sure I missed a lot. Cooling. Okay, I got to talk about cooling. Flip my page. It's because I wasn't looking at the right page. Carrie just does this for me because so I won't forget, but I always forget. Get to look. Okay, cooling is important. You know, the 03, 04 Cobras have a big problem with cooling. If you're going to put you know, your car on track, SN95 on track, you really need, if you got it on track, you're making a lot of BTUs, and you got to get rid of that heat. And factory radiators are only good to a point. They're not really designed to run it, you know, flat out for long periods of time at high temperatures. They won't shed enough BTUs. We actually have developed with one of our suppliers. We developed 3-4 years ago triple pass radiator, and we have SN95, S197, S550 cars now. And it's triple thick, triple pass is the way to put it. It's like a 3-core radiator. They drop right in. They're OE replacement. You know, no fuss, no muss. You just drop it right in. All the little bobs and bips and everything that's on a factory radiators on there. But it's, aside from being thick, it uses a different fin count, which gives us, I think, 18% more surface area plus the 3-core. But it's triple pass. Now, a standard radiator is a single pass, which means on a Mustang, it comes in on the passenger side and it kind of goes across and out on the driver's side. Well, the Mustang square in fluid will take the path of least resistance, and you draw a straight line from in to out, and that's where most of the coolant's going to go, is in that channel right there. So there, it's you know, you think about it, you lose some efficiency in the corners. And I know the stock car guys with GM cars have been running dual pass radiators for years. And because they've got inlet and outlet on the both sides, but dual pass, it comes in one side, makes a U-turn, goes out the other. So you're getting better saturation on the coolant versus the exposure to the air. Well, you can't do that in a Mustang because they're on opposite sides. So we come with a triple pass. It comes across the top, it makes a U-turn, it goes back, makes a U-turn, and goes back. So it's actually 3 radiators this size, and it zigzags all the way across. So we get incredible saturation of the coolant to shed BTUs. One of our customers put one in a GT350 because it was overheating, Road America. I think he took something like 30 degrees water temperature out of it. So if you're going to be on track, you really need to pay attention to cooling, and we've got a radiator for that. But the other thing is the on 0304 Cobras, people had a lot of problems with them on track because it only takes a couple, 3 laps and they go into limp mode. And that's because they get so much heat sink through the blower sitting right on top of the motor that they just can't shed enough heat, and it goes into limp mode and kind of blip, blip, blip back to the pits. My suggestion for 0304 Cobras that want to be on track, a couple things. First, get the triple pass radiator. That's number 1. Secondly, we've got bigger aftercoolers for the supercharger to take more heat out. And thirdly, get a vented hood. Our vented hoods are magical pieces. They do a couple of things. Number 1, they help get the hot air out from under the hood. And 2, they actually help handling a lot. Paul, my late son, when Ford was doing the development on the Boss S race cars, he went to one of their tests with his hood. The hood he developed actually at SN95, and he carried over to S197. And he was telling me they really need to use this hood, and yeah. So he showed up with a hood. They put it on the car, no other changes, and they picked up. It was a ridiculous amount of time, like a second, 2 seconds worth of time, which is why all the S197 Boss 302S race cars had Paul's vented hood. What it does is, as air comes crashing through the radiator, it goes in the engine compartment, kind of tumbles all over the place. The only place where it goes down. Well, if you're putting air in and down, you're going to build up pressure underneath the engine compartment. And if you build up too much pressure, then it's not going to, the front's not going to turn that well. So by taking the air, exhausting it at the top, you're not only getting rid of heat, but you're sucking that pressure from the bottom out the top. So you're actually reducing the air pressure underneath the nose of the car, which makes it turn better, which is why they had such a big improvement in lap times. So cooling is like at the front of the car is really important. If you've got a car that you got a big radiator, you're making a lot of horsepower, and you're still kind of up in uncomfortable range of cooling, add an oil cooler, engine oil cooler. It's a separate oil cooler. It pulls heat out of the oil, which also helps the radiator. You're not getting enough BTU extraction from your radiator. In the kits that we use have a it's a sandwich plate that that we hook up the oil cooler to, but it's thermostatically controlled, so it only opens when the oil temperature gets to 180 degrees. So it doesn't take super extra long to get the oil hot because you're cooling it off before it gets hot. So those are a couple things if you're putting oil coolers in to be aware of. And for the 4-valve motors, SN95 4-valve motors with our K-member, we have to use a remote filter location, just simply because there's not enough room for the filter where it goes. So we have a filter relocation kit for that. And a lot of people, if they're going to relocate the filter, they go ahead and add a small oil cooler to it. So that's cooling at the front. Now, cooling at the back is even more important. IRS cars, if you don't have a diff cooler, you are going to burn up the differential, guaranteed. There's no question about it. What you've got the diff, everything's working, the gears going round and round, the clutch plates are going round and round. That builds heat. Now, in a live axle car, you've got this massive amount of steel tubing to absorb heat and sort of dissipate it. But in IRS, you got this little aluminum teeny pumpkin, and it's isolated with rubber front and rear. So you're really not pulling. There's nowhere for the heat to go, which is why you absolutely have to have a rear diff cooler for IRS cars. And then again, for the kits that we do for IRS cars, just to make them like foolproof, because we've had, in the early days, we've done some that have, a switch on the dash that, the driver has to remember to turn on the switch, turn on the cooler and the pump. And people would forget. and you know, it would get really hot and burn up the diff. So we made it kind of foolproof. We actually have a sensor in there that 180 degrees, remember that number, that actually will turn on the pump, the oil pump for the diff, and also the fan. We always use a fan pack on our rear diff coolers because the airflow back there is not that great. So by using a fan pack, we're always assured we're getting, you know, airflow through the diff cooler. So that's a couple of little things. We've had those for a long time, and they work really, really well, but you've got to cool that differential. Oh boy, well, have I missed anything?
No, but we said it would be 90 minutes, and we haven't gotten to the questions yet.
Okay. Drivetrain. I mean, I'll just mention like engine drivetrain because it's on my list. For picking up performance without tearing the engine apart. I mean, the best and easiest way is a cold air kit and headers and an exhaust system. What we use on what we do on the like on the 4-valve cars, we actually use, instead of long tube headers, because most long tube headers are for drag cars and hang low, we use the Bassani mid-length headers, which package really nicely, tuck right in there, and cold air kits. I mean, you can go well beyond that, but for easy, quick performance, that's where to go with that. And then, for drivetrain, the T5 is a pretty good transmission, but at some point it's going to give up on you if you got horsepower and you're running pretty hard. What we upgrade to is 2 upgrades, but only one that I recommend for the 4-valve motors, and that's the Tremec Magnum XL. It's an amazing transmission. It'll take lots of power. It's a 6-speed, shifts like butter. They'll stand up to just about anything. We put a number of those in the SN95s and a lot of them in S197 cars because their transmissions are even worse. And then drive shafts, a 1-piece aluminum drive shaft. By going to aluminum drive shaft, you're going to reduce rotating mass. And just like going to aluminum flywheel, if you reduce rotating mass, it's going to take less time for that motor to power up than with a lot of mass. So removing rotating mass is a big thing. So those are kind of like my recommendations on transmission driveline. For the Windsor, for the Fox cars, we get a special Tremec 600 TKOs built, like the one car we're building in California right now, or having a guy build. Put a Windsor into an S197 because we are making way more horsepower and torque than the Coyote with it weighs less. But anyway, I had our transmission company custom build a TKO 600 that have a reputation of not being really one to shift above 60-some hundred RPMs. Well, they can completely go through and make it a total racing transmission. So the Fox cars, I mean, that would, that's a really good solid transmission, and it costs less than the 6-speed. So there's a couple of tips. Okay. Okay, sure. So anyway, we're at a point. I know we told you 90 minutes. Can you respond in the comment if you want to keep going? I tried to talk as fast as I could. You did a good job. So if you want, we'd love to answer the questions, but we want to make sure you guys don't have to leave for other commitments. So please answer in the comment or the chat or the comments if you would. How should we say this? Keep going, or else we can reschedule for another night. Okay, so just comment on that, and Kenny has a little more to go over. I have a page I haven't got to yet. Okay. I'm sure you haven't beat me on the head. Hey, okay. We decided to do for everybody that attended this. I know that you're interested in improving the performance of your SN95 or Fox from the IRS. And what we decided to do, and this is really rare, because one thing you'll find about us, we do not discount parts. And the reason for that is the amount of technical support that you get from our company way outweighs any kind of discount that you would get. So, and to provide that level of technical support, I mean, it's like, for people who have been with us for a while, know that, before you buy something, you're going to get a lot of technical support. And after you buy, you're a member of the family, and you can call in. And Roy called me 2 weeks ago from Mid-Ohio on a Saturday and said, "Hey, the car's loose coming off a corner, or whatever it was." I told him just put 2 clicks of rebound in the back, and he did that. And the car was fixed. So we have technical support after the fact, and I don't think listening to me, I don't think you're going to find anybody else out there that knows as much about the suspensions on these cars as I do. and we share it with, we're more than welcome to share. Like I said, we're pretty copied, and a lot of the pieces you'll see that I show, I'm sure you've seen it in the aftermarket copied, but we are the original. And what we do, if you see parts out there that say they're Kenny Brown, if they don't have a serial tag on them, they're not Kenny Brown parts. Because a long time ago, we were so ticked off that we were getting copied so much that we decided to put serial tags on every product so people know they're getting a genuine part. Because, when people copy stuff, they're not looking for performance, they're not looking for structural durability. All they're looking is to make something cheap so they can sell it and make money on. So if you look at my stuff, all of my stuff comes with serial tag. And also we can trace it back. If somebody finds something in the aftermarket for sale with serial tag, we can trace it back to see if it really is one of our products and when it was built. So that's a little note I threw in. Anyway, we don't discount. It's just company policy. We don't do it. Again, because the technical support you get us was just unmatched industry. However, my arm was twisted because we wanted to do, because we have so much interest in this. We want to do something special to help you guys get going on your cars. So this is kind of like a one-time offer, but for just the people in this workshop, we're going to offer a 10% discount on your next purchase of Kenny Brown products. We can't do that on purchase products we buy, but on Kenny Brown products for your next purchase to help you get going on the road to a better driving Mustang or Cobra. We're going to give you a 10% discount, and that's going to show up in coupon form and email. I think that'll show up in your email. And the other thing that Carrie is talking me into is for people that are around know that I'll take time out of my week to do some 15-minute consults with people. So they get like the real information, not what his buddy told his buddy or what they said on the internet. The next time somebody wants to give you information on or try to tell you what to do with your car, ask them how many national championships they won racing Mustangs. I got 7. So anyway, I cut some time out every week to do some 15-minute consults with people, complimentary. And she has maneuvered and opened up my schedule over the next couple of weeks. 2 weeks, we've added some more time in there for 15-minute consults for this group. So that's something we're going to be doing. And then from that, we can help you work on a build plan, talk about steps and stages. We can do a lot for you. So you don't have to make all the mistakes I did to get to a really awesome handling Mustang or Mustang Cobra. It's like, I'm going to save you a lot of money and a lot of mistakes. So we'll set up, we can do build plans. There's a lot we can do for you. Once you kind of become part of the Kenny Brown family, that's what Carrie likes to call it. In fact, if you hear in the beginning, you probably saw how many people she knew out there from either our Cars and Coffee or from our Speed Therapy Academy. And then again, if you really want to know, really want to get a download on my brain, we're talking about having another Speed Therapy Academy 2 after the first of the year. And we'll have, we'll explain more of that as time goes on. But this Speed Therapy Academy ends on November 11th, which is like a week after the classes actually end, when we're wrapping it up with, we have in the Academy, we have master class, we call, at least twice a month. We'll have somebody I know from the industry that's an expert in something come in and just do a half-hour presentation and then take questions, which is pretty cool. But this is what we're going to finish up with Buddy Fay, who's been a friend of mine for ages, and he's an incredible race engineer. He's won multiple Trans Am championships. He's engineered just about every kind of car, and he's going to do an acquisition 101. And it's like when it comes to data acquisition, he wrote the book on it. Literally, he wrote the book. I think it was back in the 80s. He wrote a book called Data Power. So he wrote a book on. Anyway, that's going to wrap up our very first Speed Therapy Academy, and Carrie is talking me into doing another one, which will start after the first of the year, and be more information coming out on that in the coming weeks. So with that, I'm going to switch over to, I got the super offer. I talked about open up my calendar for some 15-minute consults.
That link will be in the next email they receive.
And yeah, that'll be the next email too. And okay, I guess I'm ready for questions. Man, I talked as fast as I could. I always do. I just love this stuff, and you can tell me I know it inside out, upside down, and backwards. And once I get going.
So we decided to continue answering the questions. If you have to leave, please realize that this is recorded, and you will get a copy of it tomorrow in an email. So look for that. Also,
so you have your own personal rerun.
Yeah. So please note also that a lot of the emails are ending up in the junk mail because of new security measures with a lot of the email services. So if you don't get one tomorrow, look in your clutter.
Check your clutter or your junk mail. Okay. So rest of rapid fire through some quick questions. Yes, no, maybe. It's getting warmed up.
Okay. Will, I don't have his first name. William says, what is the process for sending our IRS cradle to you for solid mount modification? Is the modification compatible with box bodies?
Yes, I mean I think now I say I think because I don't know this. I'll know after we put IRS into this 84 SVO that's coming in. I think you have to the holes might
People have done it with ours before, so
yeah, and people have done it. I mean, if there's any issue, it's going to be with where the back mounts to the frame. If your car had a quad shock, it mounts to the same bolts. If it did not have a quad shock, then you may have to do some drilling, and so you can get the bolt of the frame rail. So yeah, as far as the process, you pack it up and send it in. We modify. We try to keep one or two ahead, but we're having a hard time keeping up these days. We modify it and send it back to you.
And then there's also a core charge. If you need to keep it in your car for a while, we can have one of ours a core.
Yeah, there'll be a core charge, and the core charge would be more than what you can buy one for. So that way we don't lose our cores. So yeah,
and you get it back when you send yours back.
Yeah, and so yeah.
Okay, and then
but here's something new. This is something really new. We've been having difficulty coming up with a cost-effective shipping method to get these carriers from customer to us and us to customer. We have just discovered recently the way to do it, the most cost-effective way to do it is by Greyhound, believe it or not. If you call in, talk to Rich, he will give you details, but we have come up with a cost-effective way to send carriers in. And it's set up, and they're set up to take, obviously it's all set up for our upper and lower control arms. And when we do the carrier, for the rear steer kit, you get an extra spacer for the rear steer kit because we move the inner pickup port even further down to get all the roll steer out of it.
Okay, and then Williams also has a question. What half shaft do you recommend for a road race? Oh, he's supposed to be asking you. I'm sorry, I forget we're not on Facebook.
Well, yeah, but I think due to the time, we'll just kind of go through
sorry
this.
About this, guys. We will do this again. What half shafts do you recommend for a road race for Fox, road race Fox for IRS? So this is a road race Fox with an IRS.
If I would say if you're under like 500 horsepower, the 0304 Cobra shafts, they're 31 spline. So you'd have to upgrade to a 31 spline. Outside of that, we Rich, who does a lot of our IRS stuff, he can tell you what half shaft manufacturers we have that can build axles for you. But also, see, 31 spline, made me think of something else. On the differentials, torsion differential. We put a torsion in every single IRS car we do. And what a torsion is, if you're not aware, a factory limited slip has a bunch of discs like clutches that kind of slide and slip, and they wear out pretty fast. So with a torsion, what a torsion is the center section is a bunch of worm gears. You just kind of spin around. And it's called torque sensing because the engine torque will go to the tire that has the most traction. Unlike, like a limited slip, which is pretty indiscriminate in how it puts the power down and they wear it really fast. A torsion will actually, it's torque sensing, and it'll shift the majority of the torque to the tire that has the most traction. So, I mean, they're brilliant in IRS cars. So we always use torsions, and the 0304 cars have 31 spline, and those axles are pretty hefty. Otherwise, we've got some manufacturers that can build axles for us.
Another question is, do those upper control arms require you to notch the frame rails on a Fox body?
Great question. I'm glad you asked that question because I forgot. Originally, when we did these, because of the bend in them, we had to, for cars that went on track or were really low, we had a kit to notch the frame so to make clearance. The newer ones, we've actually went to over bending them, so that's not necessary. Although I recommend if you're running a car really low, always when you install it, go through a full range and make sure there's no interference. You don't hit anything. here's a backstory on the notching thing. I can't remember when it was, 2000 something. A couple of Ford engineers I know wanted to build just a really all-out killer American iron car for NASA, and they wanted to base it off of my 3.5 suspension to make it a Cobra. So I mean, they really did an amazing job. They stripped it out. They got a lot of weight out, and they had my front suspension and IRS in the back. And that was one of the early ones, so they actually had to notch the frame because they were running really low. Well, so they start running in NASA, and they were just flat kicking everybody's ass. And the problem is NASA was heavily California oriented back in the early 2000s, and the California live axle guys had nothing for them. Just had nothing for them. They would just run away from everybody with live axle. So if you've read the NASA rules on American iron, there's a paragraph in there on IRS American iron. You cannot notch the frame, if that came from, nor can you move the pickup points. So actually because they couldn't compete with my IRS cars, they changed the rules to make them illegal. So if you read the thing about IRS in NASA rules, ta-da. So, but anyway, that's kind of like a little side story. I mean, the car was just so fast. I mean, the live axle guys were just, man, they were just sitting there counting their change, is the way to put it. Okay.
Okay, Robert Johns, who is actually one of our Academy members.
Robert Johns from our Academy.
Yeah. Just a note on the sway bar. Robert also owns a performance installation shop, so he has a lot of good tips as well. Just down in Arkansas, I believe. So just a note on this, on that sway bar. I plugged the ends to keep water from getting trapped in it. Would be nice if it came with some end caps. So that was some.
Oh, man, that's a good tip. I'll look into that. I like that idea. I never thought of that, but yeah, that's a good idea. Thanks.
Also, he says, do we have any photos of all the stuff installed on Kermie, for example? And yes, we do have some, and we'll send that out in the newsletter.
We do. We
have, maybe not a Kermie, but we can put together a compilation of some photos.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's like we haven't taken photos for a long time. We'll have to go back. We have to go into the old database to see if what we can find. Yeah. Carrie's confident we can find something.
Mm-hmm. We have Brad on it. He is a master at finding. Yeah,
but I got the most photos in my computer.
Oh, Brad, I think it's up to you. Anyway, Edwards asked, what about spindles for SN95?
Spindles for SN95. Mm-hmm. The 9604. I mean, they work pretty good, and that's what we've been using. They're available. They're easy to find. So we really haven't looked into making other ones. If they become scarce, it's certainly something we would look into. But like I say, we can't find any spindles for the IRS rears. So I see that as a problem only getting worse as time moves forward and we start having more and more people put IRS in Fox cars.
Mm-hmm. You will find a solution.
Yep, I'm all about solutions.
Okay, Rich O'Mara has a couple questions. Are the rear IRS strange coilover springs 2.5 or 2.25 diameter?
They are 2.5. Most American coilovers are 2.5. The JRZs that I have custom built for me in the Netherlands for S197 cars, they're a 2.25. But the strange is pretty much standard American 2.5. It's 2.5 inch ID.
Is a stock Ford rear sway bar all you need for the best IRS performance?
I mean, IRS cars, all we've been doing, when the geometry's fixed, it changes a lot. Rather than changing the sway bar, we fix a lot of stuff with the geometry, but all we do is put the urethane bushings on the rear sway bar. Adding urethane bushings has the same effect of increasing bar size.
Would you do that on the Fox as well?
Yeah, any IRS car, all we do is we keep the stock rear sway bar and just put urethane bushings in.
Do you have a Fox body specific bolt pattern for the frame plates modified and hard mounted onto the upper mounting plate?
Oh, you're way ahead of me. You know, we haven't done a Fox conversion ourselves. That's why I'm so anxious to do this SVO. So when we do that, we you know, that's a good point. That's something that I will try to remember, or somebody to write down.
Some of our texts that answer questions on the phone, they've gone through that process with people, and they probably know the answer.
Okay, yeah,
So,
yeah.
'cause we've done a lot of Fox
Rich might
IRS.
know the answer to that.
Yeah. And then we have Rory has a couple questions. Is my coupe 2.3T IRS a good balance?
Coupe.
The 2.3T.
Oh, 2.3 turbo.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean that's the SVO we're going to do is it's 84 SVO is a 2.3 turbo, and that's going to get the IRS. In fact, we're going to go through and we're going to zip up the motor, because the nice thing about that engine is they're still raced heavily in oval track, in grassroots oval track racing. So there's like tons and tons of parts for them. So we're going to zip up the engine a little bit too, and I'll probably have the transmission zipped up as well, because we want to kind of keep it, you know, pretty much original-ish. So anyway, yeah, it'll work, no problem. I mean these work with well, you know, Roy's cars. He's pumping out almost 600 horsepower. You know, the turbo or the supercharged 0304 Cobras. So yeah, a lot of work. You guys have to make sure you got the right parts.
Okay, Dale has a couple questions. How harsh does the ride become with the solid mount IRS cradle change for street and for track car? What do you recommend?
I mean, it's not a matter of harsh, it's a matter of NVH. And when you remove some of the rubber insulators, you do pick some NVH. On the Carrier, we bolt it to the back, but we leave the rubber bushings in the front. And that's specifically to help with NVH. We do also pick up NVH through the urethane bushings, but we have a lot of people that ride these on the street. And yeah, is it going to pick up some NVH? Yes. But you know, in building cars, somebody told me a long time ago, there's always compromises. So the question is, do you want a really cool handling car and just, you know, give up a little NVH? I mean, it's not going to drive you out of the car. We don't have anybody that's ever complained about that. So it's manageable. But I mean, the difference in handling is just beyond. Okay.
And then Dale also has a question. The apex wheels coming out, are the apex wheels coming out with the SN95? Are the apex wheels coming out with the SN95?
Yeah, that's what I talked about earlier. Is that
Okay.
it's a new SN95 specific wheel they're coming out with.
I think we're getting them first.
We'll have, in fact, we'll send you some pictures. They've got a load rating of, I think, 1,400 pounds, so they're good. They're a flow form wheel, so they're under 350 a piece. They let's see, they've got the same offset as the 2000 Cobra R wheels, so 18.9.5. So I think that's going to be just an awesome wheel, especially you put on some 285 35 18s, and you've got a really nice package, and not a lot of money.
Okay, let's see, the next one is from Patrick. This is a long one, okay, but it's a good question. Pinion angles and vibration. I was going to ask about driveline vibration. My IRS 96 GT has a low frequency pulsing vibration, about 2 seconds period. Actually, why don't we, Patrick, if you're still there, why don't you pull yourself off of mute and ask Kenny yourself, because I think this is a question you need to discuss back and forth. Now, this is
sure.
Okay, great. Patrick, go ahead.
Yeah, so I've been noticing this for a while now. This low frequency vibration, it kind of pulses like wah, wah, like that. Seems to be coming from somewhere in the drive line. Is by the time you get to highway speed is really noticeable. You can feel it if you're really paying attention on really smooth roads, you know, around 45 or 50. But as you get up to highway speeds, it gets really noticeable. And been doing some research, and I'm thinking maybe it's pinion angle.
What year is your car?
It's a 96.
Live axle?
No, it's got a IRS out of an 03 Cobra in it.
Oh yeah. Try our phase 1 kit. Get the pinion angle up and see if that makes a difference. I mean, that's how we fixed driveline vibrations back in, I think it was 2001, somewhere in there, 2000, 2001. Yeah, it's definitely worth a try because you can put the pinion angle all the way up. Yeah, I definitely do that. And, you know,
Okay.
get that whole phase one kit.
I've eliminated just about everything else, and there's not much left unless there's like a way out of balance or something. But I don't.
Well, I mean, that the phase one kit's a good place to start. I mean, and if nothing else, I mean, it really starts to improve the IRS package, especially with the rear steer and the increased pinion angle. So, plus you're going to get a 10% discount ticket. So,
Do you recommend one piece to start with? I mean, I know that there's 3 pieces.
there's 3 pieces to it. Boy, I mean, it's putting the aluminum diff bushings on the stock forward brace. I mean, I've never done it. Maybe you could do it, but it's be better on something that's more sturdy, that won't add to vibration. So I mean, it's you can try just the bushings, but I think I'd be more comfortable with the bushings and the brace, because I mean, you could be getting, I mean, the factory brace, you've seen it, it's tubing. It's not that strong. So you know, at least those 2 things, and see if that helps. And please let us know if it does.
Okay.
That's good information to pass on.
Okay,
All right, thank you.
How big is the rotor?
14 inch.
14 inch?
14 inch by 1.25 inches. And they do fit within most wheels. I mean, if the thing about anytime you put a big brake kit on your car, make sure that there's clearance in the wheels. Now for our kit, what we do, there's a template that you can use to see if it's going to clear in your wheels. You might trust the old toolbox comes through again. Okay, this is an example of a template. It's really hard to see. There, or like that. Get reflection off the light. But what it does, and where can I get this so you can see it? In essence, you cut it out, and this is the form that the brake would take, and you actually you sit it down on the wheel, and you make sure that in your wheel that you've got enough room to the outside for the caliper, and all the way around. And if it fits the template, then the brakes are going to fit the wheel. So that's how you know. But yeah, we use 14 inch rotors for SN95 and most S197s. It's kind of like almost a little standard with us. Okay.
So, Mr. Pond, I'm going to ask you your other 2 questions, but if you want to unmute and ask Kenny questions or communicate with him, do that. The next one is, does the radiator fit the Fox chassis?
I don't know. I can find out. I know it drops into the SN95. We need to make a note. We'll check with Rich, and he can check and see if it fits the Fox.
Yeah, I believe the SN95 radiator has a couple of studs for the mounting, and can those just be ground off? And I believe the radiator dimensions are very close.
Yeah, I mean, if that's all it takes, if they're aluminum, so it actually, rather than grind them, you probably have to cut them off, which would be easier than grinding aluminum. But yeah, if that's the case, then it should fit.
That'd be good to know.
Yeah, it'd be good to know. Do that and let us know. That would be good, good information.
I'm interested in the radiator. Also, on your rear upper control arms, do they allow you to have more negative camber adjustment?
Not really. I mean, all we ever run in the back is like 1.2 negative camber.
Okay, that's what I've currently got, and it works well. I didn't know if I could get some more. I'm working with fender clearance issues because I'm working with Fox body cars, Ford Fairmont and a Zephyr wagon that I've been running these for several years, and love the way they work.
Yeah, I mean, we've never really come up with a need for more than 1.2 negative on these cars. Running them on track, doing tire temperatures. That seems to be just a really good point. We even do that for both street cars and track cars. We just leave the speed. So I'm sure they'll go beyond 1.2, but I've never really taken them that far, but I'm guessing you could do that because there seems to be a lot of adjustment in it.
Well, the fact that that angle works well for you and it's what I currently have in my car, I think I will just stick with that part.
Yeah. Yeah, like I say, we came up with that by, you know, a lot of testing, a lot of tire temperatures. If anybody's seen any of my tire temperature tech things, they know that I live by tire temperatures. And yeah, we pretty much set on 1.2 negative. So yeah, if that's what you're running, you did a good job.
Don't mess with success.
Mr. Pond, what is your first name?
Martin, it's not
Martin.
Julie.
Okay, okay. I'll remember that, Martin.
Thank
Okay,
you.
And he had one more question about how big are the front brake rotors? I think you already answered.
He just
Yeah, 14.
told me, yeah, 14 inch. Got
14
it.
by 1.25 inches.
Okay,
Yep.
and I'm so sorry earlier, guys, that I read your questions. This is working out pretty well. Mo Fisher has a question. Or the same thing, what diameters are the rotors? So we answered that. I'm going to go back to the beginning. So Williams, if you have any more questions or would like to talk to Kenny about any of the questions asked, feel free to unmute yourself. And the same with Robert. We can probably talk to you tomorrow night, but if you have questions. And Edwards.
I think you got most of my questions. I'm just trying to fit a Cobra IRS into a Fox body and digging through it. So
I think Rich has some questions.
Yeah. Yeah, Rich may have more answers because he talks to more people about that than I do.
But one thing that you said, Ken, is you were looking at fitting a Fox into IRS into Fox, and the articles and everything out there are way off, is what you were saying.
Well, it's not necessarily way off. There was one really good article a number of years back, but I haven't been able to find it.
We're searching.
We're still searching for it, but I've seen, every now and again, I've seen some videos. People have done like YouTube videos of putting an IRS in the cars, and yeah, some of them are less than professional in their approach, but they get them in. I mean, it's like, you know, whatever it takes to get them in. To me, either it works or it doesn't. So, but
I think
we're going to be doing more research in the future days.
the car you were referring to, was that the one that Brian Tone and Mark Wilson built?
That's the very car.
That's my brother-in-law.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
We just got that car back. He just bought it a couple weeks ago.
That is an awesome car.
I'm using that as my my template.
Yeah, well,
You
you
know
know
it's
just
not
how fast that car is.
Yeah.
Yep, that's the car that changed the rules in NASA.
Yeah. He tends to do that a lot with NASA.
that's really cool. Okay, Edwards, if you have any other questions, I guess just anybody. Rich O'Meara did 10 answer all your questions and Rory. So if not, just unmute yourself and ask him, and then we'll ask other questions if anybody else has any questions.
How much clearance do you need for the front brakes, or is that taken into account with the template?
The template will tell you how much. I mean, that we can email you the template. You can print it off. I like to just glue them to a piece of cardboard to make them kind of rigid. Not even sure what that's off of, but you can see it's a piece of cardboard. You can just set them on the wheel and just see if there's enough room for them on your wheels. I know that the new wheels we got coming out, the SN95 wheels, the 18 by 9.5, plenty of room, plenty of clearance for the Pro 4Rs. They already checked them. So yeah, we can send you a template. In fact, any of the brake kits that we have, we can send you a template, so you can see if they'll fit the wheels that you've got.
The DC Rich also has a comment on IRS into a Fox. How much? No, that's not it. Where am I? He had some information. Maybe I'm the wrong one. Oh, great. Okay, well, somebody had a comment. Whoever had a comment on the article that they found on IRS into Fox, why don't you unmute yourself and tell everybody about that, please?
I found it a couple of years ago after Googling it. And it's where you worked with Brian at Brad's Custom Auto out in Seattle.
Okay.
I think it was one of the first IRS into Fox swaps that you guys did, and it was really in depth. Like, it had amazing pictures of detail of, and it used your first generation upper and lower control arms where you did have to notch the frame rails, and it showed the templates of how to do that and all that. It was really extensive. I cannot remember exactly where it is. I'll check and see if I can find any of my history, if I've got it bookmarked somewhere. But yeah,
let us know, because we've been searching for that article and haven't been able to find it. That's the one we're talking about. Yeah, if you can find it, man, that'd be awesome. We'd love you for it.
All right, we'll do.
Okay, thank you.
So I think we may have covered all the questions, but please, if you have anything, just answer, speak up right now, just unmute yourself and ask a question, and we'll end this in a couple minutes. So
Kenny, I have the IRS uppers, and I purchased them probably 7 years ago. When did you guys make the modification to the uppers so you don't have to notch the frame?
When I first, after my health hiatus, so it had to be in about 2010, maybe 2011.
That's when you made the modification.
Yeah, and then when we even increased, what we ended up doing, we ended up over bending and making it so it actually mirrors the factory one.
So is the best way to know which one I have, is it to call and just give you guys my serial number, or?
Yeah, you can give the serial number. We can check and see when it was made.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, if nobody has any more questions, I went over 90 minutes.
I knew you would.
I always go over. That's kind of the story of my life. I just get so wound up in talking about this stuff. As you can tell, I really don't like it. But anyway, I really appreciate everybody that showed up tonight. And for those that are seeing it in reruns, wish you could have been with us. But remember that, we're doing some special things just for this group tonight. You're going to see a 10% one-time discount, which is something you never see from us. And then also, I'm opening up some 15-minute complimentary consults. There'll be more information coming in. You can sign up for those, and having to put them in certain times of day because I've got to work my schedule around them. But yeah, we can. Yeah, I mean, if you want to make your car go, and it's either a SN95 with an IRS or a Fox, you're going to put an IRS in it or has an IRS in it, we can help you. And that's what we're here to do. And the technical support you get afterwards is unmatched. I mean, before and after is totally unmatched. I mean, that's so many of these parts companies, try to ask them technical question, and all they do is they read out a catalog. That's a lot of help. Okay, so, well, listen, appreciate you all being here tonight. For our Speed Therapy Academy people, we will see you tomorrow night. And tomorrow night's Thursday night. And we're working on something really special for tomorrow night that you guys know about that nobody else does. And you're going to know before anybody else.
Cars and Coffee, we're going to have a guest from one of our master classes. It's going to be Tony the Tuner.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
So 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time on Saturday morning, he'll talk about tuning tips. Yeah,
I forgot about that. Tony the Tuner, one of the absolute top tuners in the country on Mustangs, who did a master class for the Academy. And we're going to have him do just a really, really condensed version of that Saturday morning. So be sure to tune in for that. It's not often you get to talk to like a top tuner in the country. So I completely forgot about that.
Yeah.
It wasn't on my list. That wasn't on my list, so it's not my fault. Okay.
And just one more comment. I hate to keep dragging this on, but we're really into Cobras, and as you can tell, Kenny is. We're trying to come up with something to kind of have like a Cobra group or do something so we can stay in contact and answer any questions you have and kind of help you through the whole build process or driving process. So just keep an eye on your emails, and we'll send you information as that develops, or join the Speed Therapy Society group.
Speed Therapy Society, because there's a lot of good people in there, and we've got a number of resources in the, is the resource section or unit section?
It's called units, but it's all resources.
Yeah, it's called units, but they're all resources in there. Alignment specs for all the different models. I've got my starting alignment specs, but the guys that listen to me for track, you have to use tire temperatures to get them right.
Yeah. There's car prep tips in there. There's things on brakes. There's just a whole bunch of resources that you can print off. It's just a pretty, we're building the library as we speak, and it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, there's a lot of good gals and guys in that group, and there are pictures and people share stories. It's pretty cool. So yeah, that's Carrie's idea. I'm the car guy. I just talk to you about cars. So anyway, it was really good having you guys tonight. I hope you learned something, and I hope that you can take it with you. And like I say, if you need to take the process further, just let us know. We're here to help. So I think I've talked about everything I can talk about tonight. So listen, great seeing you guys. Appreciate you being here, and we'll either see you tomorrow night or see you Saturday.